Hey guys, everything new under the sun. This is your Flying Friday video. Welcome. And I've got some raw footage, and it is pure Hubsan 501S flying. It is on the North Shore of Prince Edward Island in North Rusko in the National Park, actually. And I've got some shots of taking off, like I say, on the North Shore on a beach, and then kind of zooming around over the ocean, looking back at some of the coastline there, which I think is pretty cool stuff. I've got some, I think, really great footage. One thing I will say, however, and the video will be playing in the background, but one thing I will say is that really the video, I mean, it's usable, but it is definitely shaky. And so how do you get around that? Well, you got to get a gimbal. I mean, that's how the DJI Phantom, the Mavic, that's how all these high-priced $1,000 plus quadcopters do it. They have a nice little gimbal, which, if the quadcopter's going, left or right, well, it keeps the camera stable, and so you get your level horizon all the time, and you don't see when the quadcopter's trying to keep itself geostationary. If the quadcopter lurches to the right, then the camera stays level, and so through the camera you actually don't realize that the quadcopter is lurching to the right because it has to, because a gust of wind came up on it or whatever. And so that's what basically a gimbal does. It removes the view of the quadcopter trying to keep its space, and even when you're going forward, the quadcopter's tilted forward, and even with that, obviously the gimbal stays on the horizon. So the gimbal comes up while the quadcopter is kind of pointed forward like that. The gimbal keeps it up. Everybody knows that. That's basic gimbal information and knowledge. So on obviously the issue with the Hubsan, and let me go to this picture here, is that this is the camera here, the black dot in the center. And so it is fixed on the quad, and it's pointed 15 degrees down or whatever it is. The problem with it is there's no stability. There's no stabilization. So when you get your video, as you can see in my video, it's kind of shaking all around like that, as if it has Parkinson's or something. And that's because the quadcopter is doing its thing, trying to stabilize. The gyros are keeping the quadcopter stabilized with various wind gusts of wind, and keeping it stable and level related to the input that I'm giving it. And of course it has to pitch and roll and yaw depending on where I want to go as well. So obviously the camera on board is fixed, so it's going to go wherever, in whatever orientation the quadcopter goes, which makes for a bumpy video. The camera's pretty good. Like I say, it's 1080. And not a lot of rolling shutter, as long as it's not bouncing around too much. It looks pretty good, as you can see by the detail there. And I'll keep the quadcopter video on the full screen there. What I want to show you, though, is this gimbal attachment. You can get this for, I believe it's $50 or $60. It does not come with the Hero 4, obviously, and it is a gimbal that doesn't move. So it's a fixed gimbal. It allows you to put another camera on here, and it kind of clips to the arms. But it's fixed. You basically point the camera where you want, and there's no gyro stabilization. There's no motors to keep it even on the horizon, which otherwise balance it. So yes, anyways, I was interrupted. So it does not keep the camera level. So what do you do? Well, there's not much you can do. I mean, you can buy some high-priced... what's the one I'm thinking of? The Mojo, the Mo something, the Jojo, the camera that I think that was on the original DJI Phantom or something like this. Can't think of the name of it. Anyways, you can buy stabilized gimbals, but they're hundreds of dollars, if not into the thousands. And you have the weight of the gimbal, plus you have then the weight of the GoPro, and there's another $500-600 to buy that GoPro, as you see in here, or whatever camera you're going to go with. So what is the alternative? Well, the stable gimbal, or the stationary gimbal, is good because it creates a housing for your camera. but it doesn't allow you to kind of pitch the camera to look around like the fancy ones do. So what is here's a picture of Garmin. Here is the Hubsan X4 Pro, and you can see it has a motorized gimbal on it, but so it's going to carry a lot more weight, and that's going to chew up your batteries a lot more. I think this has like a 5,000 milliamp hour battery on it. This is the kind of the 1,000. Is it 1,000? It's a couple $100 more than the Hubsan X4 501S. So it's more professional, more videography camera, and it has a gimbal which has a little bit of vibration dampening there with the rubber feet, and then it has your motorized gimbal powered off the battery of the quad, I guess. And then you still need your camera, although I think this comes with a Hubsan 1080p camera, but it's nowhere near a GoPro. So what I want to do is basically I want to get this this stationary gimbal because it does have some dampening. You can see the dampening feet here, and it just clips on, so it's real easy. It's about, I think it's 60 grams or 70 grams, so it's a little weighty, honestly. It's a little weighty. Here you can see a top view of this particular stationary gimbal on the 501S. So from that profile, it doesn't look like much. If I go back to this one, you can see how it just hangs there. Again, it's not ideal, but you know what? If you want to turn the camera, well, you just rotate your quadcopter back and forth. You can't pitch it up and down, which, that would be nice. But then by the time you put all the hardware onto the Hubsan 501S to make it pitch up and down so you can do all this videography, you might as well go buy $1,000, $1,500 Canadian DJI Phantom, where everything just works and you can have the controls from the controller to do that, because you need extra channels on the 501S to be able to control a motorized gimbal that allows you to change the orientation of the camera. That's fine. It doesn't make any sense to make the 501S into a complete videography camera drone. But you can get halfway there, and this is what I want to do. I'm interested in this gimbal, or maybe not even the stationary gimbal. Maybe my own gimbal with tie straps, which I have an idea for. And the secret sauce to this is the Sony FDR X3000, which just came out. Now this is a camera that has optical stabilization. Let me go to this one here. This is just Google Images. They have miniaturized their stabilization hardware, where now they have it in the action cam. So now you don't have to do post-processing stabilization. The Sony 4K action cam FDR X3000 actually has image stabilization. So you can strap this to the bottom of your Hubsan 501S, and it will do the dampening, the stabilization, and not so much the horizon stabilization. It might do a little bit of that, but it will take out all the jitteriness of the quad. As long as you're not doing real fast, strong movements and there's not huge gusts of wind, it should basically remove pretty much all the jitteriness that you're experiencing in the video you're watching in the background. And so this is my big plan. It is to basically strap a Sony action cam, which is about $500, but I can repurpose this camera for vlogs, other things. I can strap it to my motorcycle, to a helmet. It's not just a single purpose thing. If I were to buy a DJI Phantom, I can't really take the camera off and use it for other purposes. You can, I guess, but it's not ideal. It's not as easy. It's not as thump proof. This camera is, basic splash proof. It can withstand a minor drop or two. And so this is much better an all-around camera. If you need an action camera anyways, and you're not trying to make the Hubsan 501S into a full-out videography camera, then something like this would make sense. So my idea is to get one of these, maybe on sale. There's no used ones because it just came out in, last year, sometime July or August or something like that. Basically strap these with tie straps to my Hubsan 501S, and then you have the super high def 1080p, even 4K, but 1080p at 60 frames per second. You have the super smooth quality video, and it's optically stabilized, so you don't have to do any post-processing for shake and vibration which is great. So you should end up getting the buttery smooth cloud-like movements of the quadcopter. But I think the advantage also is that you'll actually get to see a little bit of the banking from the quadcopter, which could add to the interest in the video, whereas on the DJI, it's always stable. You know, it's all super professional, so you almost don't get the feel of being on the quadcopter. The nice part is obviously it takes out the vibrations, but this adds in the stability. So that's my plan. That's what I'm going to try and do in the near future. Right now I'm using my Olympus TG-850, and it has some stuff in the lens. I got this secondhand for about $100 off eBay, and so it's probably time to upgrade my vlog camera, my channel camera, if you want. And that's what I use for my main channel camera stuff, and spend a few dollars on a decent camera now that it's growing and I'm having more traction, and bring you guys better quality video, which will, I think, really improve the quality of my Flying Fridays for sure. So that's my plan. I also think I can do a single or a double axis gimbal where the camera could swing on the bottom of the quadcopter. So when the quadcopter is banking, you know, the Sony could stay straight just using gravity and maybe a couple of hinges or something like that. And I could probably do 2-axis gimbal just using a couple of hinges put together. So those are my ideas. I could go on forever about this, but that's my ideas, and I hope you enjoyed the video in the background, the Flying Friday video for this February 3rd, I guess it will be, 2017. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'll end it there. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you guys in the next video.